The first time that woman tried to find me over my own lake, I laughed so hard I nearly spilled coffee on 30 years of property records. That laugh died quick. Because when somebody in an HOA polo starts talking like your land already belongs to the neighborhood, you learn real fast how quietly a takeover can begin. The road back to the ranch hadn't changed in decades. Same narrowing gravel, same pines folding in on both sides, same last stretch where I dropped the truck into 4 low out of habit. My uncle used to say the land chooses its people, and if you don't belong to it, it'll keep reminding you. The gate was still there, welded steel between 2 limestone posts. Beyond it sat the house above the south edge of the lake, cedar siding, turned silver porch railing sagging just a little. The lake opened up behind it wide and flat, with the spillway humming low at the far bend. It didn't look like something anybody could steal. But people don't always steal with chains and bulldozers. Sometimes they do it with wording. Inside the house still felt like it was holding its breath. In the closet, I found the same fireproof box my uncle always kept: deed tax records, water filings, dam surveys, county memos. At the time, I thought he was just organized. Later, I realized he'd been leaving me ammunition. That first day, I walked. The perimeter checked. The dock knelt by the spillway. Listened to the water pulling through the old metal lip. The outflow fed irrigation lines and seasonal creeks downstream. Every bit of it had been filed and recorded long before Ridgewood Estates existed. There were no HOA markers out there, no shared easements, no signs of public access. Just fence lines, old survey stakes, reeds moving in the wind, and the feeling that something was off. The first clue was an unfamiliar return address on a tax envelope: Ridgewood Estates Management Board. A week later, the first letter came. Plain white envelope, HOA, crest in the corner, language so polished it almost hid the nerve behind it. Ridgewood would begin scheduled oversight of the lake and related water features to ensure safety and environmental compliance. No request, no legal citation, no explanation. Just that smooth, settled tone people use when they're hoping confidence will do the work law can't. I laid the letter on the kitchen table and started a binder. Date received, sender. Content summary: authority claimed, authority provided, none. I didn't call them. I drove to the county annex instead. The place sat low behind a row of dogwoods. I asked for Ridgewood's charter boundary filings and every amendment on record. The clerk rolled out a cardboard crate, and I spent half the afternoon tracing plats with a pencil. Ridgewood covered less than 400 acres. My parcel 731A sat nearly half a mile outside every boundary they had ever filed. No overlap, no easement, no recorded water authority, nothing. That should have ended it. It didn't. The next letter came dressed up like neighborhood business. This time the lake was called a shared-use community resource. They enclosed a stylized map with the HOA shaded in soft green and my lake labeled in blue as Ridgewood Lake. That was the moment I understood Karen's game. She wasn't trying to prove ownership. She was trying to normalize the idea of it. 3 days later, 2 HOA reps showed up at my gate with clipboards. They said they were there for a site observation as part of a water access initiative. I didn't open the gate. I told them the parcel wasn't part of Ridgewood. The woman nodded and said the lake connected to the community watershed zone. Sounded official, meant nothing. They left without stepping through the gate, which told me plenty. They knew enough not to trespass. What they wanted was repetition, enough visits, enough maps, enough newsletters, enough phrases like shared use and stewardship that eventually people would stop asking whether any of it was true. And that started happening. A neighbor at the hardware store asked if the HOA handled the lake checks. A woman at the grocery store said she'd seen the new map and asked whether I was okay with it. Karen's version was spreading not because it was strong, but because most people don't fact-check whatever sounds neighborly. Then came the packet, not mailed, folded and tucked under a stone at the base of my mailbox. 4 cream-colored pages titled Community Historical Summary, Ridgewood Lake, Access and Stewardship, Paddle Days, Volunteer Cleanup Weekends, Community Fish Stocking, Shared Memory, Shared Benefit, Shared Responsibility. No permits, no agreements, no maintenance records. No proof of any right to be there. Just a story told with enough confidence to make paperwork sound cold. That same week, Pam stopped by the fence. Older woman from Ridgewood, kind face, tired eyes. She held Karen's packet in her hand and said, "Karen says you won't meet." says you're disregarding years of cooperation. I asked her one thing. Did you ever see the board maintain the spillway? She paused. No. Did you ever sign an access agreement? Another pause. No. Pam looked down at the packet like it had changed weight in her hands. That was the first crack I saw in Karen's story. Then Karen escalated. A notice got taped to my gate announcing a safety and access survey. A couple white SUVs started parking short of the fence line. Trail cameras caught people photographing the intake grate through the bars. Then one morning, a drone hovered over the spillway, little HOA logo on the side, buzzing like it paid taxes there. They never physically crossed the line, not once. Karen was too careful for that. She wanted the appearance of authority without the risk of testing it. So I adjusted. More trail cams. Log dates, times, personnel, equipment, every visit, every letter, every unsupported claim. Karen was building habit. I was building record. And then the twist landed in my own closet. I was reorganizing the fireproof box one night when I found a thin manila folder with no label. Inside was a 1963 Texas Surface Water Impoundment filing original paper yellowed at the edges, granting exclusive use rights to the lake, its tributary head outflow control maintenance and retention boundary enforcement. Under that sat a 1970 survey annex showing the dam spillway intake channel and full water boundary contained entirely within parcel 731A. No overlay, no shared easement, no municipal claim. The next morning, I took it to county records and asked for Victoria, a clerk who looked like she'd been unimpressed by nonsense since the 70s. She read the header, adjusted her glasses, and said, "You don't see many of these intact." 10 minutes later, we were looking at the microfilm archive. Seal matched, index matched, filing still active, no superseding record, no amendment, no challenge. That changed everything. So when Karen finally sent a certified notice of non-compliance fines starting at $75 a day for obstructing environmental survey access and failing to cooperate with oversight meetings, I didn't get mad. I got calm. I wrote back and asked for three things: a recorded easement, statutory authority, and jurisdictional boundary documentation. She answered with none of them. Instead, she invited me to a board meeting. She had a stage. She didn't have a case. The clubhouse was arranged for optics, folding chairs, projector, screen board, table up front, Karen seated in the middle. She opened with all the usual language: cooperation, shared history, environmental stewardship, community values. Not one statute, not one filing. When she finished, I stayed seated and placed a USB drive on the table. I told the room what was on it: the 1963 exclusive impoundment, filing the 1970 survey annex, certified boundary overlays, copies of every unsupported notice, photos, drone logs, and the 2003 HOA memo excluding adjacent water features from HOA maintenance due to private ownership concerns. Then I said if enforcement continued, I'd request county review for unauthorized administrative action outside recorded jurisdiction. That room went so quiet you could hear folding chairs complain when people shifted. The fines stopped after that, but I kept moving. I hired a survey firm from 2 counties over and told them to document everything. 2 days later, I had a hardbound report confirming the lake sat entirely within parcel 731A. No easements, no shared corridors, no HOA overlay. I filed it directly with the county. Karen made one last attempt at a public meeting, another speech about shared memory and community identity. I brought 5 certified documents in a manila envelope and said the one line I'd been carrying around for months: memory does not create jurisdiction. That one landed. A week later, the county sent its letter. Ridgewood HOA held no authority over the impounded water body within parcel 731A. No public or organizational access rights existed. Any attempt to regulate, fine, inspect, or otherwise assert control without judicial order was administrative overreach. Then came the part that felt like karma. After reviewing everything, the county assessed a $7,500 civil fine against Ridgewood Estates HOA for unauthorized administrative action. Formal reprimand entered into the county record. Any future attempt to regulate my parcel without judicial authority would trigger direct enforcement. No speech, no drama, just consequence stamped and filed. The website changed first. The lake oversight page vanished. Old posts about shared governance disappeared. 2 board members resigned. Then Karen's name stopped showing up in meeting minutes. No apology, no confession, just one dry sentence: president resigned, effective immediately. Funny how months of fake authority can collapse into a single administrative line. And that was the real lesson in all this. Power almost never arrives yelling. It smiles, uses soft words, calls control, cooperation, calls entitlement stewardship, calls your boundary selfishness, and waits to see whether you're too tired or too polite to push back. The law has plenty of flaws, but paper does remember things charm likes to erase. By the end of summer, the road was quiet again. No drones, no clipboards, no envelopes under stones. I walked out onto the dock one evening with the county letter folded in my coat pocket and looked across the water while the spillway hummed like it always had. Nothing about the lake looked victorious. It just looked settled. Karen never admitted she was wrong. She just stopped trying to prove she was right. And in real life, that's often as close to justice as you get. So let me ask you this. When somebody wraps control in the language of community, is that leadership? Or is it trespassing with better manners? And if you've ever dealt with an HOA, a board, or a neighbor who thought repetition mattered more than the record, drop your story below. I want to hear where you draw the line between cooperation and overreach and whether justice ever really showed up for you.